the answers are inside. Yeah, I am the 21st century superhuman. Now is the time. Come on everyone, let's celebrate. We are the children of the sun. I can see you when I look into your eyes. We are the same, and we are light, yeah, we are one. Here now, hear my ancient prayer and sing along. We are awakening as one, and we can make a difference. Yeah, we can be the change it takes to make the world.
Hi there, I'm Cary Ellis, author of 21st Century Superhuman. This is our 21st Century Superhuman show. And today I have with me Thomas Miller from Australia. And Thomas is walking around, finding a spot, but we actually just looked over his balcony and it's pretty cool looking there. So, you know, show us what it looks like.
Yeah, we've just got I live on a very long balcony.
Nice.
And then, yeah, we have this pretty nice view of
Oh, beautiful. That's gorgeous. Awesome.
The Australian bushland.
Beautiful. Oh.
And if you have a look down there, that's where we're actually building a house.
Nice.
Just in the bush. We're cutting into the stone, cutting apartments into the side of the mountain. And that's my reason for living here.
Awesome. Is it kind of a community?
It is a kind of community, but people get this mixed idea. Oh yeah, commune or whatever. Like it's not
right.
Nothing to do with that. It's a very advanced type of people,
Nice.
And we're using Ethereum to organize ourselves.
Nice. Kind of a group enterprise. Well, you and I have not spoken a lot, but you offered to share with me about Ethereum, and I'm really curious about this because I feel like it's maybe a medium that we're going to be able to really cultivate some sort of new earth technologies in, or ways of communicating with each other, ways of transmitting information, new ways of being and organizing ourselves. So I'm really excited to hear about it. Do I have anything on that's still beeping? Maybe that's you. Do you have Skype on? Is it?
No, I don't have Skype
okay.
on. No.
I'm getting some little blips. Oh yeah, my Skype is still on. Let me turn that off because otherwise I'm going to keep hearing that. Okay, cool. So go ahead, Thomas, and just give us a little background on yourself and your connection with Ethereum. That's what I started asking you before.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I'm from Brisbane, Australia. I've been a social entrepreneur for roughly the last 10 years. And I've, been lucky enough to live this sort of laptop lifestyle for quite a long time. And I've been very my brain is basically all in the internet all the time.
Nice.
And I love it there. Originally I studied as a biomedical engineer. So I've got this engineering background. But I love programming. And I love
you have what I call a strategic kind of mind, I would say.
Yeah.
I call myself, I say I'm a conceptual thinker. I'm really good with ideas and vision and stuff, and I'm not as good with how all the pieces go together. And I think people like you that can put the pieces together are really key in some of the things that we're having to come out with now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I've just turned 30, and you start seeing, you probably see it more, but like you start seeing the patterns in society and how younger kids start coming through and what their strengths and skills are. And, I'm just at that age where I got to have computers when I was younger. And now, I'm starting to realize what they're really capable of doing for us.
Nice. So it's really a natural medium for you. I also believe, UCLA studies have shown that people your age are coming in with really more advanced DNA, more of your DNA activated. So I think you guys have got some really good answers for us. I believe I hear that from a lot of younger people, that their minds are thinking in new ways. They're coming in with tools sort of already activated. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it is. We definitely, we've been lucky enough to, been given the internet. I say the baby boomers gave us the internet.
Right.
And so, now let's use this tool for amazing stuff.
Yes. Awesome.
And we haven't even begin this journey of what the internet can really do.
I know. So tell us, what is Ethereum? I mean, I've been watching videos and listening and reading in Wikipedia, and actually I made a note today. Let me see what Wikipedia said it was. Oh, I don't know if I can find it. I thought I wrote it here. I'll look, but you go ahead and tell us. Because
Wikipedia might say the words like a blockchain-enabled smart contract.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Some things that we don't even know how to understand.
Yeah. So, but that's not really. I mean, you know, it was literally only like six months ago. So, okay, so Ethereum is the third largest crowd at the time. It was the third largest crowdfunded project in the world. So we all know what crowdfunding is,
right? Yeah.
And so they raised $18 million at the time in 2013. It was the idea was come up by a guy called Vitalik Buterin, and he's basically he was 19 years old at the time, a Russian guy who lived in Canada, and he obviously saw the difference, you know, the issues between the East and the West and all these things, and yeah, he's lived in Canada most of his life, but he has this heavy Russian background as well. And he realized that we're trying to program, like, he was actually the author of, or the co-founder of Bitcoin magazine. So do you know what Bitcoin is?
I do know what Bitcoin is. Can you give us a 2-minute, definition?
So Bitcoin, all it is, okay, you know how you see movies? Have you ever downloaded a movie off the internet?
Right.
Like, like torrent movies?
Right.
Yeah, so when you download torrent movies, you download them from thousands of different computers. So it's peer-to-peer, it's a distributed network. And all Bitcoin did was they took that idea of decentralizing things. This is a giant process of just decentralization, and we're applying it to everything, to voting, to social networking, to the way we communicate.
Because I think of Bitcoin as a sort of money, a digital money. Is that correct?
It is. It's a type of digital money. And it's just going to get more and more successful.
But when you say, how do you put decentralizing with that?
Okay, so Bitcoin, I'll explain what blockchain technology is. So Bitcoin was the first application of blockchain technology. So when I only realized this 6 months ago, that when say for instance, if there were 4 people in the room right now, you, me, and 2 other people, what I want to try and say is that blockchain technology is nothing different to the way humans act in a room. So if there's 10 of us in a room right now, and you and me are talking, and I hand $5 to you, okay, and those other 10 people witness that event, if you turn around 2 days later and say, hey, you didn't give me $5, well, there's another 10 people that can enforce that and say, actually, no, Tom did give you $5. So it's this peer-to-peer review. It's other human brains reviewing and saying, hang on, that did happen. Or say, for instance, we're in a room and you talk to me, or you talk to everybody in the 12 people in the room right now. And we have this underlying smart contract that our brains do that says, while you're talking, everybody else, be quiet. That's a smart contract. So it can, and that's an idea. So if you go and do a good deed in front of everybody else, you start earning reputation points in front of everyone else. So that's an idea of a smart contract as well. So take that same concept. It's the same thing that the way communities work. It's the same way when any group of humans work together, together. That's when blockchain technology is happening. Our brains do it all the time. It's keeping this peer-to-peer public ledger. So
that is amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. So instead of our brains, and I only realized that how simple it really is. We're just getting computers to do it. So when account A sends money to account B, all we're doing is we're getting thousands or millions of other computers to record that same transaction and say, yes, that's what happened. So that if account B turns around and says, I never received that money, well, all the other computers can say, yes, no, you actually did receive that money and you have no more power. So, so it puts it, they can't change the record. They can't add more money to their account for any reason because all the other computers have to verify it.
So it's almost sort of a witnessing. It's like a witnessing that something took place by multiple perceptions, so to speak.
Yeah, that's
so how does that translate into Bitcoin being money? I don't quite know how to put that together.
Okay, so all Bitcoin is now that you understand that concept, and there's thousands, and they have this silly idea called Bitcoin mining.
Right.
Yeah, and people think, oh, Bitcoin mining, and they get in their computers and they're trying to mine Bitcoin. It's a silly idea. It's not the right way to think of it. All Bitcoin is just a giant Excel spreadsheet, but it's saved. There's a copy of that spreadsheet saved on everyone's computer, on everyone who's mining. So all the miners, when a computer goes and says, I'm transferring $10 or 10 Bitcoins to computer B, and then all the other computers have to change the value on the spreadsheet, saying computer B is sending to computer A, or computer A is sending to computer B. That's all it is. So it's just a spread, and that's why the data gets really big, because it's actually calling every single transaction. You've probably heard it in Bitcoin mining that you have to download like 20 gigabytes or 30 gigabytes of data to be a miner. It's because they're downloading the entire spreadsheet of every single transaction since Bitcoin started.
So does that mean? Okay, so the biggest question that seems to pop into my mind, and maybe I've heard from other people, is, so does that make what's going on cumbersome, or how do we manage those repeated memories of things?
No, it's just an early version of blockchain technology. We've got other programming methods that will not require us to download 30 gigabytes of data to join the network. So it's just early days. There's lots of other technologies, or same technology, but not, we can take that spreadsheet, we can block it out, and we can move on with a new one. We will do that. In fact, that's going to happen with the long network, which is happening through the Bitcoin. So that's not an issue, like in terms of cumbersome. No.
What was it that you just said that's going to happen with what network?
Oh, so at the moment, Bitcoin can only do a cumbersome sort of way of doing it. Just remember that this is the first time we did it. Like when we made the first Steam engine, it wasn't the best engine. Okay, we can improve on things a lot now, and so that's Bitcoin was the first Steam engine. Like just think of it as the first application of blockchain technology, this peer-to-peer ledger. So we're making better versions, and Bitcoin gets upgraded all the time, and Ethereum is getting, it's going through these different upgrades as well. So you understand that. That's pretty that's all it is. That is really fast, basically.
That is very cool. So can you explain a little bit about how that applies in your, so to speak, community or organization of people that you're working with there on building a house?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, one of the things that I kind of have to say is that I'm not sort of like a community guy. I see humans as unpredictable, and I see them emotional, and I don't ever see, and I think as soon as there's some cheating going on or some sort of envy of any type, then things can start going a bit haywire for that area, for that group of people. So I never saw people living together. And that's why the industrial way of living together has worked so well, like these giant suburbs. Everyone's got their own house sort of thing. That's what, it's a very successful model. Like this industrial model that we've lived is very widely successful. The only problem is it's very exploitive of the planet's resources. And so it's not going to work in the future. And it's clear as day that we cannot do that. So we need to start looking at other ways. And so it's about, so this whole, so now I need to point out that Ethereum is not just applying that idea to money. So Bitcoin just applies the blockchain idea to money only. Okay, and that's all it does. So that's pretty not very good, really. Though when we could apply that whole decentralization idea to everything we do, reputation, to voting, to other things. So with the Ethereum is not just a spreadsheet. Ethereum is a programming language that executes in a decentralized way. So that's the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's an entire decentralized computer that kicks off rockets around the planet every 17 seconds. So it's not only got an Excel spreadsheet, but it's executing a bunch of functions every 17 seconds at the moment. Well, a bit earlier than that. So that's what Ethereum is. So now if you can program a blockchain, then you can actually start creating other currencies. So it's a way of, all, but, think of it, back when the internet first came out, there was lots of different technologies, okay? And there was lots of different, when computers first came out, there was lots of different operating systems. At the moment, we're in this point where there's just lots of different cryptocurrencies. And then there's going to be some that just sort of rise to the top, like Linux and Windows and Mac. They were the three that sort of rose to the top. And online, it was all Unix, Linux. So that's what's going on with cryptocurrencies. There's going to be some big dominant ones that people start using. And one of those ones is clearly Ethereum, because it's an underlying technology that can be applied to voting and reputation systems and online social networking and lots of other things. So, and money. So it can do lots of things, not just one thing. So you had operating systems in the past that could just add numbers together. You had operating systems in the past that could just read floppy drives. But you needed an operating system that could do lots of things, like what Windows could do. And so that's what we're seeing with this whole process. So now coming back to a community using this, Ethereum gives us the tools to be able to create a currency for that area. So if you think about it in terms of America, so it now ties in. Do you know what central banking is? Central banking.
I would say generally speaking, yeah, but not probably exactly.
All right. Well, let's take for instance, if we take the size of America, and there's a certain amount of money in America, okay, and there's a giant money pool of American dollars, okay, and now every year when you go and buy milk with those American dollars, can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you really clearly. Yeah. I've been muting myself because somebody's got a lawnmower on out here, so that's the reason.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm muting. But go ahead.
Okay, so we need to bring in the concept like energy is not created or destroyed; it's merely transferred. Okay, so there's this trickery of money that happens in our current monetary system, and it's sort of magician's play, and basically it's when you have a if you take all the American dollars in the whole world, and you put them all in one room, okay, or you take all the American dollars in America, in basically every single American dollar, and when you go and buy a pint of milk, okay, and then a year later, but then if you add more American dollars, so that you hear about this printing of money, and you go a year later, you go and buy more milk, you're gonna have to spend more dollars, you'll use more of those dollars to buy the same milk, because the value of the milk hasn't changed. It's just that the value of the American dollar has gone down because there's more American dollars. So does that make sense? So if that's the case, so the reason why I'm saying this is because this is what we can do this type of power is how. So what I'm trying to say is that this type of arrangement of housing, if you're in America and you want a house, so you want to buy a house, the underlying law, if you want a semi-okay house, it's going to cost $50,000. Okay, this is the law in America, pretty much. This is the monetary law. If you want a medium good house, it's going to cost $200,000. If you want a really good house, the law is that you have to have $1 million. So that's the law, and you can move into these entities, into these houses. So we can take that same system and apply it to every community. So with Ethereum, we can actually tokenize, we can create our own currency, and we can write in the code that you can, if we're on this property here, we're building 50 to 100 apartments, and we can write into the code of this token. So we're releasing the ELF token here, and we can write into the code that you get access to an apartment once you have 10,000 tokens. Now, how do you earn tokens? You can buy them, or you can work on the property and earn tokens. And once you get to the certain token amount, you can move into a house that's been built. So it's the same idea that countries apply, but applying it to small things, applying it to small communities. And this is what we're used to. Our brains are used to dealing. This is how we sort out our problems right now. If we don't like our neighbor, we move out. We sell up and we move out. Or if our neighbor doesn't like us, they sell out and move out. And it's the way that I can see that we're going to get mass adoption of people moving into communities and starting to manage themselves. This will go mainstream, basically.
Am I hearing a rooster in the background?
We got some chickens.
Chickens.
And,
Oh, sounds really cool.
that's
I just want to say, I can't wait to listen to this again. And everything you were saying is brilliant. I mean, I'm really, what you are sharing with us is something that, you know, some of us coming out of the old paradigm are kind of grasping to understand. But this is the kind of way we need to move forward. And I've spoken with you a little bit about the online community that I'd like to develop called Virtual Earth Village. And
yep.
this concept of, I've come to a point of believing, you know, I think we live in a system. This might be a little sidetrack because I want to stay on Ethereum, but I've come to believe that money is kind of a spell, you know, that we live in this culture that has taught
magician's
us,
play.
yeah, it's magician's play, and it gets manipulated in very magical ways as well. That we're also taught that money gives us power. We're taught that money will get us what we need to survive, and that if we don't have enough money, we will suffer. And I think all of those are part of that spell. And really, there is a currency that is life, that is the creation of life, that is us, that is our creativity, that's continually flowing. And I think Ethereum is one of the clues to how we begin interpreting the currency of our existence in a different way than just the program of money.
It's a new paradigm. It's a completely new paradigm, but it allows us to, you know, like one of the things I want to really point out is that we have to create systems where people are used to the old paradigm, and they adopt the old paradigm into these new living ways, because
bridging.
It's capable of doing that.
I call it bridging.
Bridging, yeah, transitioning.
Right. From the old way that we're familiar with into something new that we can relate to, that doesn't just require the old to fall apart in order to do it, but gives us a new system that we can move into that maybe lets us operate in a more healthful way, a way that provides more well-being for more people. I guess that's the sort of...
And no barrier to entry.
And no what?
No barrier to entry in any activity. No barrier to entry. Like we've been used to these financial firewalls for too long, and we've accepted it as normal. Whereas we could just create better financial systems that we care about. Like a currency is just a flow of energy. You know, flow of energy. And every currency that is released, it has a governance system. I mean, at the moment, the currency of the American dollar seems to spend flow a lot of its energy to military spending and things like that. And that's the governance system behind that American dollar. And if you think about money in terms of, you know, the kings and queens, they never ever thought about their empires in terms of the border. They always thought about their empire where their coin reached. And that was their whole plan. Like the Roman Empire was always trying to spread out their coins as far as possible.
Interesting.
Because when they do that, they can go there to that area and they can have influence over other human beings that live there, because they can pay with their coin. And that's why when you go traveling all over the world, you see the American dollar everywhere. I found it really strange, you know, that you live in an Asian country and that there's, you know, they accept American dollars. And then I started realizing, oh, hang on, this is how the curtain of influence works.
Right.
And so every country is trying to do that. And now we've got this, you know, China's trying to spread their Chinese yen.
Right.
And they're trying to get it out there, and they're trying to be the dominant power, and they're setting up their own central bank and stuff. But, you know, the thing is, us technical people, we've moved beyond that. It doesn't really matter about these countries now. There'll be no borders, you know, in 10 years.
I love it. And I love everything you're saying. I'm so excited. I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. And thank you so much for just coming on with me to just share your glimpse, give us a glimpse into this technology. I could probably ask you to do about 10 shows with me, and we could keep delving deeper into this. But for this time around, if you can just give me, maybe let's go into a couple of questions. One is, isn't Ether also kind of a currency that you have connected with Ethereum that would be kind of like Bitcoin, or am I wrong on that? And then secondly,
that is, yeah.
how would we consider applying these things maybe in our life, in our world right now?
Right. Yeah. So Ether is, so again, so I think every currency needs to have a governance system behind it. And if you think about Bitcoin for a second, Bitcoin is cryptocurrency. Okay. Ethereum is crypto law. Okay. There's a big difference between it all. So Bitcoin just has one purpose, and it was designed to mimic gold. Okay. It was designed to be a store of value that was better than gold. And it has successfully achieved that. And the more people realize that, because you can't turn it off. And even if the internet turns off, you can still trade if you find 12 other people that actually, you know, are part of the network and do a ledger. You can still do it. It'll take longer, but it could happen. But yeah, but the internet's not going to turn off, so we're not worried about that. But the internet is becoming more, this whole decentralization process it always happens in nature anyway. It's just happening in our consciousness. That's all that's going on, because money is just, you know, a conscious thing. It's a made up idea. But so what I'm saying is that the difference between Bitcoin and money is that, Bitcoin and Ethereum is that Ethereum is crypto law. And now with Ethereum, you're also writing a governance system behind that currency. And the governance system is that in order for Ethereum to work, in order to have thousands or millions of computers out there peer-to-peer reviewing the blockchain, you know, all those transactions, smart contracts, in order for that to happen, there's got to be people that need to buy a computer, and they also need to pay for their electricity to run the computer and also pay for the internet. So we need to somehow reward those people or supplement those people so that they can do that. And so the way we do that is we create a currency, and a currency is a point system that we reward every time those computers are out there providing the transactional power. We give them ether, okay? And ether is a way of measuring how much work they've done for the actual network and how much transactions their computer has done for the network. But it just so turns out that that's a really useful way to also pay. So say for instance, we go and execute a smart contract on the Ethereum network. It's going to cost a certain amount of electricity and a certain amount of computing power. So we need to measure that. So we use a point system called ether. And so it's just a way. So I know that if I go and launch a smart contract, it's going to cost, you know, 0.00001 of an ether on the network, which that somebody will get that ether, and they can eventually convert that into Bitcoin, because ether has a value. Now, because just like, you know, with the American dollar, you know how that you heard of this idea of the petrodollar? When the American dollar moved away from the gold standard, they needed some type of way to back it.
Right.
And so what they did, the way they held the value to the American dollar is they said to the whole world, you can only buy oil in American dollars, and that is the law. And so that's what became the law. That's what became the governance system of the American dollar. And that's what held the value of the American dollar. Because if people wanted to run their machines or their tractors or their cars, they have to buy an American dollar. So that's what holds the value of the American dollar. But it's been changing. And that's why Saddam Hussein was the first guy who said, no, I don't want to sell my oil in American dollars. And that's why he got taken out. I want to sell in some other currency. And if people start moving away from the American dollar, then it devalues the US dollar, and then the currency doesn't become as valuable. So now the reason why the Ethereum currency is so valuable is because the only way you can execute smart contracts on the Ethereum network is with ether. So ether is the currency of Ethereum. And so if everyone wants to execute smart contracts, like I want to build a local currency here, called the Elf coin. You know, lots of people have different uses. You'll probably want to build one as well for your vision and what you're doing. Then we have to buy ether. So if there's lots of people trying to buy ether, then the value of ether goes up. Now, I want to point out that just because the value of ether goes up does not mean that it costs more to execute a transaction. It doesn't mean that at all. It still costs the same amount of electricity. It still takes the same amount of resources to build that computer, and it still costs the same amount to buy internet, to connect the computer to the internet. But it's just the value of ether goes up. So I've watched it go up from, you know, originally there was an initial, they announced that each ether would be 30 cents, and it's now gone up to like $12. So I've watched it going up like 38 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you use Ethereum? I mean, are you using it currently? I mean, I know you're using it in your personal interactions, but are you using it on the computer?
Yes, I am. Yeah. So one of the, I'm in, like, I use Ethereum just to store my value in Ethereum. Sorry, there's a train going past. Is that a bit noisy?
No, I'm not hearing it. Could I do that? Could I use Ethereum to store my value in it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I've written a course. You know, it's really like, you know, I'm in Australia, so the Australian dollar has dropped 5% over the last 10 days. So, you know, I've got friends who have got holding millions of dollars in Australian dollars, and it's just every time that happens, they lose. You know, one person's lost 150,000 just in the last 10 days, and that's so it's a bit silly to and that's because the Australians have, you know, we have a central bank in Australia, and they've announced that they're going to lower interest rates, and when they lower interest rates in Australia, what that means is that the rich people will move their money out of Australia. And the reason so if there's not as many people holding their value in Australian dollars, the value goes down because they're selling it off. You think of, you know, if you think of Australia and there's a bunch of Australian dollars, when you buy into Australia, when you buy those Australian dollars, you're buying a share of this company. Each country is just a giant company. It's a group of people. What's a company? A group of people. When you're buying American dollars, you're buying into the American company. When you're buying the British pound, you're buying into the British company. And that's what dictates the supply and demand and the value of that currency. So we're going to move past country-issued currencies, and we're going to move into, there will be a currency behind every single idea on the planet. Okay. And then some of those ideas will be really, you know, they'll eventually be like the love coin, or there'll be coins that people really care about. And that, again, a coin is just a flow of energy to a certain cause. Right. So humans that care about love will choose to store their value in the love coin, or they'll choose to store their value in the panda coin, or they'll store their value in the dolphins coin. And you'll have a little smartphone. You'll have a little smart device, and you'll choose, and you'll have on your phone, you'll go, yep, I want to save 2% of my value in the dolphins because I care about, this is the future of activism. I want to save 4% in the love coin because I care about love. I want to save 10% in, you know, community coins because I care about empowering and flowing energy towards that. So this is the future of where it all goes, basically. So by just saying it, so Ethereum has just moved out of, and the way to make this all happen in an uncorruptible way is to use blockchain technology, so that no one person can just change values on a computer and write themselves their own check and fraud the system.
This is fantastic. So this kind of sort of levels the playing field a little bit for all of humanity, instead of just somebody who happens to be pulling strings sort of at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah. So, because at the moment, if you look at the American share market and the Australian, if it's been really clear, if you take a picture of how much money is printed, and you also and that's a graph that goes up and down, and if you also look at the value of the stock market going up and down, it's exactly the same image. So the actual stock market is completely manipulated. It's a complete game, and it's organized by this group of people called the Federal Reserve. Right. And basically, we've just got to move away from these people. Right. And they've, you know, have you heard of the creature from Jekyll Island? This stems back to central banking.
I've heard of that, but I didn't know that it had anything to do with central banking.
Yeah, the creature from Jekyll Island is basically the Rockefellers and these very wealthy people all meeting up. Right. And they're coming up with this idea of the central bank, and where they want to have a private entity being in charge of the money supply. And I think it was one of the Rothschilds said, I cannot, you know, give me the control of a nation's money supply, and I care not who makes its laws. Because imagine if you could just print American dollars whenever you want. Right. And that's what these people do. They just print them whenever they want. And we saw what they're capable of doing in 2008 when they just printed and bailed out the whole economy. And so we have to move away from that, because it puts us human beings in a fake world and in a fear paranoia. We're not sure what's going to work and what's not. So we have to move away from the fake world and move into a real reality where we're truly aware of, you know, our capable energy, and we're aware of what, you know, we're not being magicians playing this, trick playing on us. And, we've got so many people all over the world who lived in first world, second world countries and third world who work their whole lives and they got nothing to show for it and they don't understand why.
Right. And but one of the things that I look at too is because I have family members who are, they're basically, you call it the first world, upwardly mobile. They work really hard. They have a lot of debt, but they have a lot of things and they have money at their disposal. But probably their debt to ownership ratio is terrible, but to them, the idea, I know for a lot of people who, it's probably a smaller percentage of the world, but those who are in the more educated first world countries who have worked their whole lives to accumulate this materialism, the idea of changing to a different system might just kind of blow their minds a little bit, I think. I mean, I realize we're talking about, and yet I live in a world where what I'm looking at every day is, there's a child dying every 15 seconds of waterborne illness. There's 1 billion people without enough food and shelter. There's such a huge imbalance. And it's easy for someone who lives in America or maybe Australia or Europe to turn to me and say, well, Cary, we have everything we need. The world's not that bad. And yet, if we look at ourselves as a human family living under one biosphere, connected by the life of our planet, how do we create an equalization that's truly based on life and the life process and the abundance that exists in that life process, rather than some people hoarding things over here and manipulating so that they can be harvesting off of people paying for debt over here, and that whole sort of fake system that's been established and holds us under its spell, and then someone like you comes along, your generation of, I think there's a bunch of young mavericks out there who are, look at the guy who developed Ethereum was 19. I mean, this is awesome. And it's so cool. And it's just, it makes me really excited for knowing that, I've been fighting my whole life.
The world's going to change. The world's going to change.
The world's going to change. Yeah. And I just love it. Yeah. People like me have been working our whole lives for freedom and for people to wake up, and yay, the troops have arrived. There's
it's really happening.
Intelligence behind tools that can literally take us into a new kind of world. And we're going to have to, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with Michael Tellinger's Ubuntu system and going beyond money. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
I mean,
my Twitter handle is Ubuntu Tom. I'm fascinated by the word.
Yeah, I love it. And that means I am because we are. And we are a village. We are a collective of humanity. But so how do you see that Ubuntu concept, or the Ubuntu of us really being able to move beyond money? Do you see this whole Ethereum, Ether, and these different kinds of currency representations being sort of a bridge to that?
Yeah, so you need to realize that everything is a currency. The amount of air in the oxygen in the sky is a currency. That's a bank of air. When trees drop leaves on the ground, they rot. That's a bank of leaves. They rot, and that provides food for the humus and the fungus to start growing, and they start banking up, and then that creates a fungus currency. That the fungus currency can then rot away and then provide new manure for new trees to germinate the seeds and start growing. So everything is a currency. We got a little bit fixated on that there was only one type of currency, and that was the US dollar, or these country issued currencies. But everything's a currency. When I go to sleep, I'm saving up sleeping, I'm storing energy, or I'm creating new energy, and I'm adding to my sleep bank basically. That's energy in my body is a currency. Everything is a currency. So the more that we can just start breaking down, and the more that the more we will move away from money altogether. It won't actually be, there won't be any, in 10 years from now, I'm pretty sure that there won't really we won't even have like dominant currencies. It's up to our own imagination, but we can literally, I've said, we can smart contract our way away from money altogether. And, you know, it might be that we're just using, you know, reputation points or anything, or it's just, you know, when you help somebody and you help enough people, you've built up a network of people, or that's a currency. You know, you can think of anything as a currency, but you can think of it as just like nature. You know, we don't measure trees dropping their leaves in currency, but that's all it is. It's, you know, it's another way of thinking about it. So
That
it's just,
is absolutely
a
true.
log falls over.
You know,
It's just nature.
yeah, you know, I have a friend who's in Peru who for several years has been telling me, I want to start a currency based on the oxygen of the planet. And when he first started telling me that, I couldn't understand. I had a hard time understanding it. And I think these concepts, when they first come forward, I mean, I remember when I first started writing my book, 21st Century Superhuman, like 3 years ago, and I ran into Michael Tellinger's Ubuntu concept, and I was like, beyond money? How are we ever going to live beyond money? And, you know, it took me months kind of digesting that to take it in. And then my friend who wanted to create a currency from the oxygen of the planet, like, I understand it better now than when he first told me. And everything that you're talking about is helping me understand all of it better. And I can feel my brain just laughing. You know, my whole neurobiology is going, oh my God, this is so awesome. It's so cool. And I know there's many, many, many people in the awakening community who are hungry to learn more details about this kind of thing. I think if you made a suggestion to people who wanted to become involved in this, what would they do? What steps would they take?
I mean, I'm at the leading, you know, thoughts of it generally half the time, I find, and I haven't really, you know, apart from people in the Ethereum community, but they're more technical. So Ethereum's at the point now where we can start like sharing it with the world. And all I'm doing is I'm breaking it down for everybody to understand instead of just on the programming level. So a really good resource is a blog that I write at called transitionfoundation.org.
Nice.
Go and subscribe there. And just listen to, you know, read the emails, or I send out videos every now and then, and I'm just all about, we need to break it down and let people understand it on a natural way, so that we can, you know, basically, if you think of it, the industrial age, you know, it turned us into robots. Having this one financial wall currency puts us in a really rigid system. But if we can now move away from that, we can actually be animals again. We can actually explore our own consciousness again, and not have to fit in these rigid monetary boxes.
Beautiful.
That, you know, society has created at the moment.
Beautiful.
That's why we've got so much depression on the planet, because people don't resonate with that flow of energy.
Yeah,
we're designed with other things.
Yeah, we're designed to be creative creator beings, and we're designed to flow through our days, and we've gotten stuck in these little boxes. So I'll get that link from you. I'll have you send me that link so I can put it under the video to make sure that we get it right. And And what I would say about this is, I think we're all in a learning process. We're in a waking up, opening up, learning, assimilating. And I just want to encourage everyone out in the listening audience to start absorbing, listening, paying attention, and just keep learning. And we'll learn and grow together into this.
Yeah, the solution, I've kept saying it, and many people in the Ethereum community say it as well. The solution's never going to come from one person. It's a collective.
That's right.
Always is a collective, because that is the only solution. It really is.
That's right.
You know, we've all got these super creative machines in our head, or whatever you want to call them, and they've all got a different perception of the world, and they've all got a million solutions. And Ethereum's really that engine that can let people express their solution, and then from there, better solutions.
That is so fantastic. It's really, really cool. There's a story, Mike Upstone. Do you know Mike Upstone? He's kind of in the circles that you and I met in, but he's kind of a systems guy, and sort of a futuristic systems guy. And he tells a story of, there was a village, and everybody was going to guess how much this piece of meat weighed. And so everyone put out their guess of what it was. And then this one guy took what every other person guessed and added it up and averaged it, and he came out with the exact right answer. And kind of the principle of that story is everybody has a piece of the answer within them. And
it's a collective consciousness. Yeah.
It is a
You're
collective.
talking about the wisdom of the crowd.
The wisdom of the crowd. That's right. You already know the story. Yeah.
Yeah. Or the scientific term for it is called emergence.
So what are your parents like, Thomas?
They're very industrial people.
Are they? And do they ever just look at you and say, "Where did we get you?" Or
they just don't have a clue how.
My mom actually says that to me. She says, "Where did I get you?" You know. But it's cool. Thank you for coming to planet Earth, wherever you came from.
Don't know where I came from. Don't really know who I am. I'm just channeling, and I had this real experience one time when I was like, I'm going to build this company. It was Unlimited U Education, and I had this I was in China at the time. I had this real channeling experience where I was just sitting there and I was typing on the computer, and there was just stuff that was coming out. I don't know how it was all happening, and I ended up building a mind mapping social network where people could express their mind.
Nice.
And then share with people.
Nice.
But yeah, that ended up not being able to fund it anymore because I ran out of money at the time. But anyway, the cool thing is just in the last couple of days, it's being resurrected and it's being turned into a customer who purchased into the system. He's actually we're rebranding it as Crowdify, which is basically Crowdified mapping, and we're creating a coin behind it, the Crowdify coin. And that coin is all about creating shared working spaces, especially in Africa and India at the moment, because we've got another person who's broken down offices and stuff and turned them into shared working spaces quite successfully. He's done it like 10 times, and so we feel like building a currency behind that system would be really powerful.
Oh, I love it.
So it's just taken off.
Cool. Well, I have this vision for Virtual Earth Village as a place for the collective to kind of gather and share what they're doing that's working, all different places in the world. And by that, we accelerate, we go, wow, they did this over here, we can do it over here. And they can get into chat rooms and talk to each other. So that's a kind of hub that I've been envisioning building for a long time. So I'm going to do a show with the New Map guys next week. And I have a feeling that between Ethereum and something like New Map, maybe we've got some tools to create something that's just completely new beyond anything that we've already got. We can have a currency. Virtual Earth Village can have its own currency. And I'm excited. So I think.
Are you involved in Bitcoin? Have you got any Bitcoin yet?
I don't have Bitcoin. I have so little money. I mean, I'm usually just functioning on pennies, so. Yep. I guess one of these days I'll have that. I mean, I think somehow we'll have to raise some funds to do Virtual Earth Village one way or another. So
well, it's the interesting thing is that people say, "Oh, what backs a currency?" Like when people ask, "Oh, what backs the Ethereum currency?" Well, before it was created, it was just an idea, and an idea that's powerful enough will get money, will get funding. Like that's and so what I'm saying is that what backs the currency is an idea, and if people care about it, then that's what happens. And people do. That's the thing. Like, we're all resonating on the same frequencies now. It's just but now we're just organizing ourselves and stuff.
We are. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me here. And we'll put some links below the video, ways people can access the information that you're putting out on a regular basis. I want to tell everybody, learn, grow, come and watch the rest of my shows at Naturally Better TV, 21stCenturySuperhuman.com. And we'll see you all out on this great rainbow of light on planet Earth that we're learning and growing in together. Thank you so much, Thomas Miller. We'll see you at another show, maybe.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I love that.
Awesome.